Hello and welcome to Murder Analysed. I'm Christina Moore. Today's case, it's a shocking case really, but it highlights about stalking. Now stalking is such a serious crime, and it's when you research stalking and you research cases, there's thousands of them. And a lot of people think that stalking is just for people on the telly, some stars, A-list stars, lots of A-list stars are stalked, but also lots of ordinary people are stalked. I think it's 1 in 14 women are stalked and 1 in 50 men. They don't all end in murder, but a lot do. So when I was looking for cases, stalking cases, because I do a lot of cases on domestic abuse and a lot of cases on offences against women and offences against children, stalking, the main cases you see on stalking are against women. So when you look through, and I looked, and in this sort of, a lot of videos that I'm going to do, I think I've chose about 8 or 9 different videos to do on different ages of not only the stalkers but of the victims and stuff, to highlight how serious this is in society. And as we become more online and we do different things online, where everything's now done online, you will see that it's more prevalent, I think. So today's case is the Molly McLaren case. Now she was 23 at the time of her death, and she met Joshua Stimpson on Tinder. Now when we look at online cases and we look at what I would call cybercrime cases, I think people of my age, we're used to going down the pub, meeting someone, this, that and the other. There's no difference really, because this first reaction, this first impression what we get from people when we meet them, whether it's online or not, can just be as dangerous. So even though Tinder and Facebook was this man's medium to get out there, to meet people and stalk people, there's a majority on Tinder that don't do that. And no matter what these social media sites do, you would not know whether there's a predator on there or not. He used his own name, he used his own face, own pictures. Now Molly spoke to her killer for 4 months before she actually met him. This girl did everything she could to protect herself from meeting someone like him online. So this case, and this is why I've done the thumbnail, as if only if she didn't swipe right, because it's through Tinder. I personally have never been on Tinder, but I've had to research it. But I don't think there's any difference. All I can say is when we go through these videos, it will show you what predators are out there. It will make you more aware. But it also, there's some hints on here from Cambridge University and other agencies that tell you what to do if you're being stalked and how to deal with it, what to do and what not to do on these cases. So that, as we go through these cases, and there's quite a few of them that will be coming up on this subject of stalking, because it's so serious across the world against men and women, but the majority of women. So this is why this case is today. So today's case is the Molly McLaren case. 23 at the time of her death, Kent, UK, 2017. So Molly was like most young women of today. She was at university, second year of university, doing a sports degree. She's a very sporty person, very fit girl, nice girl, good character. She had suffered when she, in her younger years, her teenage years, with bulimia. So she's a strong girl because she got over that. She worked through that. At troubled times, a lot of kids at 14, 15, 16 have bulimia. It's a way of coping. And she had come out of that. She'd got herself into university. She was on her second year. She was looking like she was going to get her first at this university, which was amazing. She worked hard. She loved to exercise. And so she decided to do what she loved as her degree. She, as I said, with most normal girls these days, she didn't have time she was working, I think, as a barmaid as well, going to university, and she wanted to find love, as anyone in their 20s would do. And so she chose Tinder. She went on Tinder and she was flicking through, and she saw then Joshua Stimpson on there. And as I said, she did, flick right, and began to talk to him for about 4 months before she actually met him. Now, I think the only thing I can say is, when you are trying to protect yourself against these, when you're talking for someone over 4 months, you are building up this relationship with them. But sometimes, or most of the times when you're online, not everyone is telling the truth. Now, unfortunately for her, what she didn't know is that Joshua had already had previous stalking 2 other girls about 4 years before. 2013 was his first one. I think 2016 was his second one. So he had a history. But as I said, it doesn't, Tinder and Facebook dating and all these other dating sites you're on, they can ask you if you've got a criminal record. They can ask you stuff. Well, he didn't have a criminal record, because the laws with stalking, especially in 2013, 2014, were a little bit different than they are now. You get a slap on the hand, or, don't do that. It wasn't taken seriously by police. Actually, what happened a lot with the police was, in this sort of incident, is when the woman would make a complaint against a man, or a man against a woman who was stalking, it needed evidence. And so the police really didn't take it seriously. Oh, it's a relationship just gone a bit wrong. You're just being silly. And a lot of these girls, these victims of stalking, were actually fined for wasting police time. So a lot of people didn't report stalking because they wasn't being taken seriously at the time. Now, in 2013, when Joshua was stalking a lady from Staffordshire, really offensive text. She only met him a few times. Really offensive texting. Really, I think he slashed the tyres. There was a lot going on. He put a lot of stuff on Facebook about her. Really was derogatory towards her. He was threatening towards her. But the police didn't arrest him. They didn't put it down to that. Yes, they was questioned. So there was, and the police admit that there was errors at that time. One, because I don't think people understood about stalking so much. They didn't understand how dangerous it could escalate. And when we talk about this coercive behaviour, which now we've got laws for, we didn't have then. So the laws wasn't that strict. But when you fine a victim for trying to report a crime, what they feel is a crime, where you're being harassed, and it was harassment without a doubt, constantly bombarded with phone calls, bombarded with texts, leaving notes on your car so he knew where you was, so he wanted you to know that he knew where you was. These police sort of laughed at these girls, discarded them, and actually then fined them, because these predators are very, very good, really good, to where they then, in the police's eyes, some of these men, became the victims. And it was a disgruntled girlfriend. She's just, making things up about me. Luckily, the law has changed a lot. I wouldn't say it's still great, because in this case, I don't think, however great the law was on stalking, this murder happened to where they broke up and she was murdered within 12 days. So there would be no police force, there would be no laws now that would have protected this girl, because by the time you got stuff in place, she would have already been dead. But the signs were there. They were there. So she met him after this 4 months of talking to him, and I don't think, even at first, she was greatly intrigued by him. It was sort of, I think on his part it was all or everything. Everything, he wanted everything. But I think on her part, she didn't. And so after a few months it started to dwindle off. Then they went on holiday together, and it stated that they went on holiday together because they wanted to try and see if it would work or not. But you see, in a stalker's mind, it's always going to work. There's nothing you can do. So of course he was going to go on holiday, but she was texting people on this holiday saying like, help me, this is wrong. She knew now something was wrong with him. She probably hadn't spent as much time with this man as she had on this holiday, where he was trying to rekindle something, because a stalker doesn't want to lose you. Once they've got you, they want to keep you. So when she came back from this holiday, she decided that she didn't want to see him anymore. And she told him, being honest, she's told him. Well, the thing is with as I said, what she didn't know is that Joshua already had this personality of a stalker, where he was now obsessed with her. He then bombarded her with texts and phone calls and everything else. Then he attacked her on Facebook by saying that she was a drug dealer, by she was taking drugs, this, that and the other. She wasn't. All this was his way of trying to get some attention. Because with a stalker, any attention, including negative attention, is attention. And that's what they need. They thrive on it. So when you are saying, don't text me, don't email me anymore, don't ring me, that is not what they're hearing. It's really not. So the best thing to do with a stalker is do nothing. Tell your friends, tell your family, do nothing, say nothing. Absence really, helps here. And I think with Molly and her mum, because her mum and dad were very good, but her mum, I think, Molly knew by this point, I think, and she had been to the police. They'd been to the police about these messages that he had put out online. And the police were looking into it. But as I said, it wouldn't have mattered how quickly they'd looked into this. And they did speak to Joshua. They did speak to him. And he said, oh, sorry, I'll take it down. They took it down. And at first they told Molly that this wasn't a criminal offence because what he was using online, wasn't a criminal offence. Well, it was actually. And after then they looked at it again. They did say, yes, it was, an offence. The things he was saying against her, the defamation of character against her, he was using Facebook as a tool to diminish her character, to stalk her, to harass her in such a way that this girl was frightened now, and she knew something was going to happen. And he sort of told her, he kept saying, this isn't over, this is just the start. And usually with a stalker, that's exactly how it starts. Now, not all stalkers go on to kill. Not all of them do. But what he did, so they finished, I think, in June. And 5 days later, he went out and he was seen on CC camera in a shop in Asda's buying a knife. Now, at this point now, Molly had stopped putting on her whereabouts, where she was going and stuff, because she didn't want him to be. They knew that he was following her, because he used to turn up where she would be. So don't forget, it's only been about 5 days since they've split up. Not very long at all, really. But I don't think she knew how bad it was going to get. So she went out with her friends. She went out to the pub with her friends. I think the night before she died. So we're talking about 11 days now. And all of a sudden, even though no one has put up where they're going on Facebook or any other media site, Twitter or anything else you want to say, Instagram, whatever else, none of her friends had put up where she was going. But all of a sudden, he walked in. And now he's getting the reaction. The friends are looking. She's looking. They're all looking. And they leave. Because you're in a public place. It could have been by accident that she he was there, but they knew it wasn't, and Molly knew it wasn't. So she got a taxi and she went home that night. Again, though, thinking, right, I'm going to have to sort this out. Now, this girl, don't forget, is a very fit girl, very lovely girl, very nice-natured girl, nice-natured family. They're trying to do it the right way. They've contacted the police. It's not stopping him, okay? It's not stopping this man. Now, the next day, she's got up and she's thinking, I'm going to go to the gym. So she's gone to the gym. She's parked her car in the car park. She's walked into the gym and she's starting doing her exercise, and you'll see some pictures of that in a minute. After about an hour or so, all of a sudden, Joshua starts to walk up the stairs, through the gym, upstairs, with a holdall. A black and coloury holdall. Now, he had been seen on camera in the Asda buying a knife. What was in that holdall was 2 knives and an axe type thing. It's like an axe. It's shocking, really, this murder. And what he's done is walked into the gym where she is on her own, doing her exercise, and again you'll see pictures of this. He's laid his mat out next to her and started to exercise. And what Molly did, she stopped her exercise and she walked over to him and said, are you following me? Knowing she was. But again, this is now a reaction, and it wasn't the reaction that he wanted. It was a reaction, because he would have wanted that. But he already come prepared, you see, and she didn't know that. He already had the murder weapons on him. He was ready. He had planned this 5 days before this. He had planned it. She was already dead. It was only the chance he needed to kill her. And that was the chance he had. But he didn't do it there, because too many people were around. And so he rolled up his stuff, picked up his stuff, packed it away, and he left. Now, she is texting her mum, saying, he's here, and I've got some text messages, I'll show you on here after, saying he's here, and the mum saying, come home. And I think the mum rang at 10:20 a.m, 10:45 in the morning, sorry. She had texted her mum. 20 minutes later, when her mum tried to ring her, Molly was dead. She had walked to her car. She had got in her car in this big car park, public. This is now, 11 o'clock in the morning? Packed car park. He had parked his car just over a bit from her. He'd got out of his car as she was getting into her car, opened the door of her car, and continued to stab her in the neck, face, torso, 75 times. Now, there was a man, and his name was, let me try and think, because he needs to be, Benjamin Morton. He was a witness. He was in the car park and he could hear Molly screaming. And he ran over and he tried everything to stop this man. Absolutely everything. He even tried to slam his legs into the car door to stop this man. He wouldn't stop. It was a frenzied attack from Joshua Stimpson, a 25-year-old man at the time who had previous of stalking offences, one that was reported and one that wasn't, against his name. He had only known her for about a year, under a year, and they'd only been split up 12 days. Now, Joshua was arrested at the scene, and as usual with all these perpetrators, once he was arrested and he was covered in blood, he had killed her, and that's really all he wanted to do. He got to the police station, and his defence was diminished responsibility, because they want to murder you, but they don't want to say it. I'm mad, I didn't know what I was doing, even though 5 days previous to that, he had gone out and he had brought the knives, brought the axe, brought the stuff that he needed to kill this girl. Luckily, when he went to court, the jury found him guilty of murder. I think it was 2 weeks after the trial, he was found guilty of the murder. And he was sentenced to life imprisonment, and that was on the 6th of February 2018. Now, Judge Adele Williams has made it very clear that he has got a minimum of 25 years, but he is not even allowed parole or to be considered for parole for 26 years, because this man is dangerous. Now, why haven't we not got more judges like this that make it very, very clear that this is what's going to happen? This man cannot come out, because don't forget, in 2018, when this man was convicted, he was 26 years old. Give him 25 years. You can do the math. Again, as I always say, if this man is let out, he is still young enough to re-offend. And if you have the mentality of a stalker and the mind and the personality of a stalker, that will never go away. No matter how many years they want to put you in jail, his personality can't change. It's in him. So let's go over the timeline a bit now, just to refresh of how quick this murder was. So on the 17th of June 2017, Molly ends the relationship with Stimpson. That's it, it's over. But Stimpson still starts harassing her on Facebook continually, terribly abusive, text messages, Facebook messages, God knows what else, but he was doing that, threatening to do things as well. 22nd of June, she and her mother go to Kent Police. 25th of June, more Facebook posts, even after the police have spoke to him, and he wouldn't listen, and most stalkers will not listen. They're going to say one thing to the police and do another thing. That's how it normally is. So on the 25th, he puts more posts up, prompting them, to go back to the police. And then on the 29th of June, Stimpson goes to McLaren's gym, to Molly McLaren's gym, and he kills her by stabbing her 75 times. Now that is the quickness of this crime. So, as I say, not all stalking crimes are that quick. Some can take a year, some can take stuff. No, not all stalkers are attracted to, to a person. Usually it's a relationship or an end of relationship that's been going on, and sometimes there's been domestic abuse in that relationship, and then that relationship ends, and then the abuser, the perpetrator, then can't let go and then starts to stalk and everything else. And you'll see that in a few of the other cases that I'm going to put up. With Joshua, he had the 2 crimes previous, one reported, which was the one in Staffordshire, which was a couple of months relationship. But the other one in 2016, he only met her once, and she really didn't like him, and he continued to harass her. Now, she said to him, "I'm going to the police." But at the same time, he then met people on Tinder, and Molly was one of these he was talking to. So usually a stalker won't stop unless they are worried about the police or going to prison, or they meet somebody else, and then their energy and their focus then will go on to them. So really, is this domestic homicide? I suppose you would class it as it. I would class domestic homicide as this, who would have a more fuller relationship than what they had, but it is domestic homicide, I suppose. But it is stalking. And there's been now a lot of changes over these last few years to do with stalking. But if you are being stalked, there are other avenues. If you don't want to go to the police, there are agencies, there are charities out there that will help you and help you to know what to do. Now, no one really knows what's the best thing to do about being stalked, because stalkers are like everybody else. They have different personalities and different traits to their stalking. So it's difficult. But the main thing that you must not do is you must not respond. You must not answer texts. You tell everybody you know not to respond in any way. You will have to reduce what you put online. And sometimes, I think all the time, you must not show other relationships that you're in on there, because, as you'll see in many cases that are coming up, a stalker may not only then go for you, but it may go for your next boyfriend or girlfriend because of their jealousy. And I think with the Cambridge University and where they've set out, there's about 4 or 5 things you shouldn't do, but one of them is not responding anyway. You must keep evidence, all evidence. So if they're texting you 100 texts a day or 100 texts in 10 minutes, or where I've read 100 texts in under a minute, it was constant. It was bing, bing, bing. It was constant, in some of these cases. You must keep them. You must keep any voicemails you get. You must keep any evidence you get. If they are abusing you on Facebook and anything else, you must keep that. Because without evidence, these can't be prosecuted. And believe me, now they can be. With the new laws that's coming out, they can, because I've said before about domestic abuse, and this is probably why they've done it as domestic homicide, is because under the laws, the new laws, it's not now just about the violence that's, you're put through, but it's about the mental, the psychological damage that would cause you as well. So now there's a lot more ways that they can be prosecuted, but only if you keep the evidence and you don't respond. Any reaction to them is a positive one. Whether you think it's a negative one, to them it's a positive. And so you must not react. So you must limit what you do. And I know it sounds awful that in this day and age, as women, that we must, when you're being stalked or when you're being harassed or when you're being, chased around, domestically abused, and you're frightened. And a lot of these girls were frightened for their life. A lot of these cases that I've done, people have moved away and still been murdered, right? So there isn't no right answer, but there is help out there. And again, I'll put up slides to help you if you need more advice, if you're being stalked. So this case, yes, it is a cybercrime, but it's more of a stalking crime. And in the day and age we live in today, online is everything. So I can't tell you how to be safe, because I think what Molly did, by waiting the 4 months, she continued to talk to him before she met him. Can you do more research? Always do more research. Always try and do as much research as you can before you go on an online date. Or, meet someone on Facebook. There is other avenues that you can check out. Because this man had a history. And if she had known that, or if the police at that time had been like they are today, where we can go and check and see, and his cases would have flagged up, she would have been saved, without a doubt. So we have a 23-year-old girl now, murdered by a man she hadn't known that long. He was her boyfriend, and from the time they split up to the time she died was 12 days. So, thank you for watching. I hope you found this case interesting. Watch out for all the other ones that are coming up, and there's a lot coming up on this sort of stalking, cyber crime stuff coming up. You know what to do. Thumbs up if you've liked it. You can hit that subscribe button, the logo button that Lacey puts up there for you to subscribe. Thank you for everyone that's subscribed. I can't believe it. We're so excited. So thank you so much. And thank you for all your comments. I really, really appreciate them. So you can follow us on Instagram and you can follow us on Facebook. So until the next time, bye-bye.